So, hello guys, and welcome back to another Scottish Trout and Pike channel video. Today I'm focusing on pike lures and the ones that have been working really well for me. So, without further ado, I'll get into it, and if you have any questions, just hit me up in the comments. I'll answer any questions you have. But here we go. So, I think some of the best takes you can have for pike are with these top water whopper ploppers. Now these were made for the American market for bass, but they're absolutely brilliant for pike. So with these, I'm sure these are the 30 gram versions. You can get smaller versions, 14 gram. But for me, I go for a perch pattern. This one was just pure green. I've put some markings on it to make it look like a perch, and the pike are smashing it. As you can see to this one, perch pattern as well. Now these are the bigger ones. These are, I'm sure, the 30 gram versions. But like I said, you can get them in all different versions and weights, colours, patterns. But for me, the perch ones work best. Whopper ploppers are amazing. The take on a whopper plopper is fantastic. You can't beat it. So that's whopper ploppers. They were absolutely brilliant. It's a bit of a tongue twister to say, but they work great. More top water lures are these, just poppers. So these retrieve through the water. They've got the big mouth. So they will go plop, 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 plop. As long as you retrieve them in that motion, cast, stop, wind, stop, wind, stop, wind, stop, and it'll go plop, 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 plop in the water. Brilliant. And again, these, for me, for pike, I'm using perch patterns. The perch pattern just seems to work a lot better for me. You get them. This was just a plain orange. I put perch stripes on it, so it's a fire tiger. So don't be afraid to alter your baits to make them to what you want them for. I alter a lot of my baits. I change hook sizes. I change the appearance of the baits, and I just modify them to how I like. So you'll see this one has 2 hooks on it. This one has 1 hook on the back. So switch it up to what suits you, and these work really good. Top water ploppers, again, these have a rattle in them. They are top water baits, and I think a strike from a pike on a top water it's second to none. Brilliant. Again, other colours that work for me are this gold one, and you can see I've put the stripes on that one as well, and this green one, which I think imitates a perch. So this one, I might even put some perch patterns on it with the marker again. Whatever suits you, you do it, and just have confidence in that lure and it works. Again, another lure that I use are these jerk baits. Now this is a long body jerk bait. I've got these in many different colours, different patterns. Again, this is a green and yellow one, rainbow trout pattern. They were absolutely brilliant. This is a fire tiger, and this is what actually gave me the inspiration to modify this one. So as you can see, they're quite similar. These jerk baits work really good. Retrieved properly, they will imitate a dying bait fish. So if you retrieve this in a quite erratic motion, not a straight retrieve, it'll just wobble. But if you give it with the lure just good pulls with the rod, this will imitate a dying bait fish really well. And again, I've got these in different patterns. This is a a rainbow trout pattern, and the lip on the front of these lures means that they dive really well. So these lures are top water, the poppers with no lip on the front. These ones with the lip on the front, they dive, and the larger the lip, the deeper they dive, depending on your retrieve as well. If you retrieve this really fast with your rod and your reel, it will dive really, really deep. If you retrieve it really slowly, it'll sit a wee bit higher in the water. So depending on your retrieve, you can make this dive deep or shallow. So these are what I call jerk baits. As you can see, this one's got a larger lip on the front, so you can retrieve this really slow and it'll dive really deep. And again, this will just give that wobbling action at the back, so it'll do this in the water. And again, it's got a rattle perch pattern, works brilliant for pike. But the pike in my area are also gorging on trout, rainbow trout, brown trout. So I've got a trout pattern. But the main thing to take from this is the lip at the front. So a small lip at the front will mean it dives quite shallow, but the large lip at the front means it dives really deep, and that again depends on your speed of your retrieve. So you can retrieve this one really fast and it will dive as deep as this one, but this one you can retrieve really slow and it'll dive really deep. So that's the jerk bait. Again, you have these in different body styles. So this is another one that I've added these stripes to it just to make it more like a perch. Again, it's got the lip on the front and it will dive really deep, and it has a really erratic action and a really loud rattle on it. And this is a really, really good bait for getting down deep. On the days that the pike are searching the bottom, this is a really, really good bait. Again, I've got that in the brown trout pattern, and I've taken the hook from the front. The pike's mouth's big enough, it doesn't need a hook at the front. The one at the back will catch it. So that's the brown trout one, and this one's got a coloured lip. So it just makes that bait look a wee bit longer for the pike. It makes it worthwhile for the pike to eat, so it's not thinking it's just eating a wee minnow with a clear lip. A big lip at the front, coloured, makes the bait just look a bit longer. And again, you'll see the difference in the lip sizes on these, and that just means that this bait will dive a lot deeper and it'll rattle a wee bit more. Fast retrieve, this will sit on the bottom and it will actually hit bottom, and it's a really good bait. Again, I've put the trout lines on it, the perch lines on it, and it's a fantastic bait. So another one are these lipless crankbaits. So this one doesn't have a lip, it'll have the same action as this, but it just won't dive as deep. Again, I've put the lines on it, it's just what works for me. And with a lure as well, another thing to take in consideration when buying a lure is where it attaches to your line. So if it attaches to the front, it'll dive pretty deep. If it attaches just above the head, it'll dive pretty shallow. And if it attaches on the top, it'll dive really shallow. So that's another thing to take in consideration. Rattle as well, and the pike just love it. So that's the baits covered. Another really, really good bait that I like to use are these swim baits. So this is a pike swim bait. Again, it's got the attach on the nose, so it'll dive pretty deep. It's got the rattle again, and to me, I don't really think these pike think that this is a pike, even though it's in the shape of a pike. I think they think it's a perch because of the colours and the patterns, and the swimming action on this is really, really good. What I will say as well with your baits is, your lures, you don't need to go expensive on lures. This lure, I think, was £1 on an internet auction site, and it works fantastic. It swims, it's got a great action in the water. So, swim baits as well work really, really good for pike. Green, black, yellow, red, they imitate that perch that the pike are naturally foraging on. So this is another swim bait. This one I think is really, really good. It's a really innovative design. It's got magnetic hooks. So the hooks just sit tight on the body of the lure. Again, it's got that action. It's got a tail on the back, a rubber tail, and it gives a really good vibration motion in the water. It's got the rattle again. The rattle, I don't know if it means a lot to your lure, or sorry, I don't mean if it adds a lot to your lure, but it certainly helps. So that's one thing I'd like to see added to a lot more lures, is this magnetic design, where the hooks aren't just hanging down, they're tucked up there. And it just means if you're fishing in a really weedy area, you're not picking up as much weed, and these hooks are definitely going to get picked up by the fish when you're striking the fish. So I think that's a really, really good, really, really good design. Again, I've added the black lines on this just to make it more perch patterned, and it's got the pivot in here, so it swims really, really well in the water. Another thing that I must say about pike lures is bigger definitely means bigger pike. So if I'm fishing this small lure, I'll catch jacks, maybe even a perch. But with this larger lure, I seem to pick up the larger pike. So I do have that in different patterns again. This one's got the stripes, don't need to add it. And again, it's got that magnetic hook. So the hooks just sit, it's brilliant design. Again, it's got the jointed body and the rubber tail to add a lot of motion in it. And when you retrieve these will have a really natural swimming motion, and I think that just puts in the mind of the pike, that's a bait fish, it's swimming like a bait fish, I'm going to attack it. But what I will say about these is it doesn't imitate a dead bait fish like the crankbaits do. It imitates a live bait fish. So see, when a pike attacks these, the strike is, it's a good strike. Then a pike takes up a dead bait, it takes it slow and it'll swim away with it. But when a pike attacks a swim bait, it attacks it like it wants to kill it. So again, I've got these in different, this is a trout pattern, jointed swim bait, and swim baits work really, really well for pike. Another one I've got is this perch swim bait, really, really good. Swim baits, I will say, work really, really well for pike. If I'm going to throw a bait, it's a swim bait. And the one that I choose is this, the Berkeley Zilla. And the Berkeley Zilla, this is, I'm not sure what size, weight this one is, but you can see it's a substantial bait, and the pike that I pick up on this are really, really big. And when they attack this, they attack it aggressively because they think it's a live fish and they want to attack and kill it. What I will say about this bait is, this lure is, I've had to add this tail myself. As you can see, I just painted it black and put a glitter lacquer on it. It comes with the rubber tail just like these swim baits, and I've lost it. So unfortunately, I didn't want to have to fork out the money for a new tail, so I just added this tail myself, and it works brilliant. I think it actually adds a bit more substance to the bait, and the fish nail this. But Berkeley, this is a Berkeley swimmer, and it's fantastic. Really, really, really good. Whilst we're on Berkeley baits, I'll add this one as well. This is a Berkeley Zilla glider, and this is a really, really good bait. Again, perch pattern, I always pick a perch pattern. If I have the choice of a perch pattern when I'm picking a bait, I pick the perch. Pike love perch. Also, they like to eat roach, that's why I have these silver patterns. But they love to eat perch. And this one is a Berkeley glider. This is an 18 gram, 10 centimeter lure, and when I retrieve this, I don't straight retrieve it. If you straight retrieve it, it'll just have a little wobble. If you retrieve it in a step, 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 step motion, it'll go side to side. And that's why it's called the glider. They're really, really, really effective lures. I've caught many pike on this. This lure's been chewed up really, really well, and the pike love it. So, on the gliders, again, you have different sizes. So this is a smaller one, this is a larger one. I picked this one up on an internet auction site. Really cheap, and it does the exact same as the Zilla. It's just a little bit larger. And again, it's got that rattle, so it works really, really well. And again, this one will have that side to side action, as long as you're giving it the action with the rod. Another good bait that I like to use, and now this is one of my smaller ones, is a chatterbait. So this chatterbait comes just with the blade on the front and a hook and a skirt. I've added this soft paddle tail to it. You don't need to do that. You can fish it the way it comes from the box, but I like to add a paddle tail to it. And this skirt, it's just brilliant in the water. And this on the front just adds a flash. Now you can get different coloured blades for the front. You can get copper, you can get all different colours. I prefer the silver for the pike, and that works absolutely brilliant. There's a jig head style hook on this one. I'll show you some more. That's the chatterbait. This one is more a jig style. So again, I've added a paddle tail to this, and it's brilliant. It's not got the blade on the front, but it works just as effective. And when I got this one, you'll see there's a hole on the top, and this had some bristles on it that made it weedless. I just took them off. I didn't find it was working well weedless, and I thought it sort of impeded the hookup rate, so I tamed that off, and it works brilliant. I'll show you the lures that I'm sticking on these, and they are the Abu Garcia Mick Prey, and they're in 120mm. This is a 12 gram jig with skirt, and I find that the 120mm Mick Prey works really well. So you can change it up. You can make this lure white with green, and just putting a different paddle tail on it makes it a completely different lure. So you can have the blues, and you can get these Mick Preys in different colours. I find the green, the gold, the silver and the blue work best for me, so that's the pack that I get, and they're fantastic. And again, take that weedless presentation out. It just means that the hookup rate's a lot better. And another one is this spinner one. So this has got a spinner on the front. It adds a wee bit more in to the lure, and I find this works better on cloudy water, murky water. So the blade at the front, it just means the fish can pick up a bit more on it. And this one has a weedless hook, so it doesn't have the weedless presentations bristles on it. There's a weedless hook, but I like to have that hook right out there so the fish are picking up on it. Again, I use the Mick Prey Abu Garcia 120mm on these, and it works brilliant. Really, real effective lure. The spinner one I use on dark, murky water. If the water's a bit clearer, then I can use this one without the spinner blade on the front. The fish, if you put that in there, the fish know it's there. Pike are really, really good predators, and if you put a bait in front of them, they know that that bait's there. Like I said, this chatter bait is one of my smaller ones. I'd use this mainly for perch, but the larger ones, they work really well for pike. Pike just annihilate these baits. So that spinner bait, the chatter bait's the one with the blade on the front, and this is just a skirty jig bait. And the one I find works best for me is a 12 gram for pike. A 12 gram, you can go larger, you can go smaller. Like I said, this is one I'd use for perch. This one I use for pike, and they get right deep in the water. So this is a 12 gram, it's got a solid lead head on it, so that gets right deep in the water. This one, the spinner, sits sort of in the middle of the water column, and this lighter chatterbait sits closer to the top. So depending on conditions, clarity, water clarity, you pick what one works best for you and you go with it. Another bait I like to use, these are also the Mick Prey, but it's just so that I can display this bait. This is a soft paddle tail. I put a stinger in the front. By a stinger I mean a wire trace with a screw that screws into the front of this bait, and it has two or even one treble hook on it. With this 120mm one, 12cm, I'll just use one treble hook, so it has a screw on the front with a circle, and from that I put the treble hook just, I'd say, 3/4 of the length of the bait in, and that attaches your main line from the front to the hook at the back. And again, wire trace. I always use a wire trace for a pike. I know some people use a heavy fluorocarbon. I just prefer to use a wire trace. A wire trace, you can keep it, it's never going to break, and for me it just gives me confidence. And confidence in what you're fishing is a lot while you're fishing for pike. If you, any fish I mean, sorry, if you're fishing for a fish and you've got confidence in the lure you're using, you're more likely to stay on the bank, and you're more likely to catch the fish. Now this is another soft paddle tail lure. It's got the treble hook at the front, which I set like this, so I put one of the treble hooks into the body of the lure, and it's got a hook on the back. It's got a weight in the front. My lure, my line ties here, and this is quite a deep diving one, so I'll use this in deeper water, and this is a really good lure. Soft plastic lures are brilliant for pike. Another lure that I found that I've been catching pike on, and I'm quite surprised, is these, because I actually bought these for perch, but I have been catching a lot of pike. And these are spinner bait. It's a spinner at the back, gives off a lot of action, and it's a tiny little lure, but it gets really deep because it's got a heavy lead in the head of the lure, and it gets really deep. So what I'm thinking is, fishing, the perch don't really like to go deep in the water column, because this obviously imitates a perch, and it's going deep, and it's getting struck with the pike really well. So I think for a pike, a perch that deep, they can't resist it. But I mean, look at the size of that. It's a minuscule lure. It must be 5 centimeters in length, and it's getting nailed. Again, it's got the hook on the top, and it's working really well. And what I will say again about lures is, you don't have to go crazy buying really expensive lures. Most of this spinner bait, for example, I picked on an internet auction site, really cheap. I think that was £4. Add a good soft plastic on the back, you're fishing. This glider I picked up on an internet auction site. Believe it or not, it was £4. And I mean, this is a Berkeley, as you can see. This one was £14, and that for a fraction of the price, and it's bigger. Does the exact same. The hooks might not last as long. Hooks are 10 a penny. You pick up good hooks on sites for cheap, and I mean, come on, there's not much difference in the lures. And if I was to pick this one up on this size, it would be almost quadruple the price. So you don't need to go expensive for pike lures. Again, this one, £4, brilliant. I've added these myself, the lines, to make it more perch, so it looks more like a perch. Brilliant. The Zilla Swimmer, similar sort of lure, same principle. That one was nearly £20. So, in these Whopper Floppers, I picked these up for, I think these ones were £12. So you don't need to go mad when you're buying lures. But I hope you liked what I've had to say tonight. If you have any comments, any questions, ask me, I'll answer them straight away. And please like, subscribe my channel. If you think what I'm saying is common sense and you like it, put a like on, and I hope what I've had to say tonight and what I've showed you helps you catch some fish. So tight lines, guys, and good fishing, happy days, and enjoy yourself. Bye.